I want to thank everybody for making it tonight. There we go. Thank everybody for making it tonight. Tonight's class is going to be specifically about Texas lease options. Now, we've got a number of people here from Houston. I was down in Houston about a month ago, which I've got to say I really enjoyed my time down there. It's I want to say it's rare, but it's not just rare. It's unheard of that I do a live training like that. But I've got to say I really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed meeting the people down there. Um, just a fantastic group of people, and I'm in communication with Tim Mai to try to get back down there, just to see everybody again and get back down there and see everyone. But just really enjoyed that. Anyway, but tonight's class is specifically about Texas lease options, and let me bring him on board. And about the rumors, the truth, the the falsehoods, etc., and where do we come into play here? Now, for those of you all from Houston, such as Mark Hammer, Matt Huber, etc., you all, we ran through this in pretty good detail when I was down there about a month ago. But we'll go through it again. I'm recording this. This will be in the back, Leasing to Buy, so you'll have access to that as well. So again, I don't mean to bore everybody tonight with Texas lease options, but here's the deal. When you're talking about property code, it's not extremely... I thought Bill was already in. When you're talking about property code, it's not extremely fascinating. It's kind of like watching a snake molt its skin off. It's like you're watching it and you're like, okay, I know what it's doing. And then like 3 hours later, like, can we go get a hot dog now? It's not that exciting, But so I'm going to try to do the best of my ability to go through Texas lease options, the property code, what the law states, what some of the rumors were, etc. And again, for those of you all that were in Houston about a month ago, we've gone through this, but let's go through it again. So here we go. I'm going to bring on and I apologize for the lack of professionalism in this presentation, but who cares? It's just me and 17 of my closest friends. So here we go. Let me bring this up here. And again, this is the same. So let's talk about Texas lease options. The rumors and truth about Title II, Chapter 5. First of all, Title II, Chapter 5 of the Texas Property Code involves conveyances. And let me... bring this up. Again, for those of you all that were in Houston about a month ago, we're going through the same things. The history of Texas lease options. The tornado of May 2000. Title II, Chapter 5, prior to 2000, was about conveyances. In 2000 of May 2000, a tornado hit downtown Fort Worth. And it hit not only the Bank One building downtown, but housing development just to the east of downtown. Now, those houses to the east of downtown were basically houses that were on a contract for deed, okay? But they were not insured. So what happened is the tornado hit, the buyers had no insurance. The sellers had no insurance. There was no deed. The buyers had no deed. There was no house. So they had no insurance, no deed, no house. They had squat. And these buyers were Mexicans. That were just trying to buy the houses on contract for deed. So Mike Moncrief, who is the at the time representative for District 12 draft legislation, regarding Title II, Chapter 5 of TPC to address the conveyances, saying, you know what, this is a scam. We've got to address this situation where people are getting houses under contract for deed, but the owners aren't getting insurance, or the owners don't own, or there's no conveyance of title, which is a contract for deed. And so that is where the contract for deed really became a major issue with real estate in Texas. So let's move forward here. So that was back in 2000. In 2001, because the Texas legislature meets every 2 years. In 2001, they drafted statutes specifically about Texas lease options. About contract for deed. Now let's fast forward a little bit to 2005. In 2005, the Texas Low Income Housing Information Services. This is actually a group. This is bizarre to me, but the Texas Low Income Housing Information Services, which is or was at the time affiliated with Acorn. Yes, Acorn came into play and lobbied someone on the Senate side and the House side. Texas Low Income Housing Information Services. If you want to look up Texas High Income Housing Information Services, yeah, that doesn't exist. But anyway, Texas Low Income Housing Information Services. What happened was this. The property code addressed conveyances, it addressed tenancies, it addressed landlordship, but it didn't address lease options. So what happened was someone from the Texas Low Income Housing Information Services Authority lobbied Senator Lucio from Harlingen, and on the House side in Texas, Representative Dutton from Houston, and said, you know what, people are getting ripped off with lease options. We've got to fix this. We've got to take care of this situation. Now, here's the thing. The lobbyist from the Texas Low Income Housing Information Services, and Senator Lucio and Representative Dutton, keep in mind, they don't know a damn thing about lease options. They don't know a damn thing about real estate. It's just that they've got the offices. They've got the nameplate. So this is where lobbyists come into play. They go, oh, we've got this major problem with lease options, and we've got to fix this. And they're taking advantage of poor Hispanics that have the cash, but they can't buy, and so this goes into how laws are made. So there's two ways that laws are made. One is things that irritate a politician, and two is cat juggling. Now, for those of you all in Houston, you all know the example that I set about a month ago. If someone is elected to an office, say in the House or the Senate, and they're driving down the road. Okay, this is how laws are passed. They're driving down the road and they see a billboard for Hooters, and they run their car into a telephone pole. They then decide that, oh, I'm going to pass legislation that we can't have any cleavage on a billboard. That becomes law. We can't have cleavage on a billboard. The other thing is, number 2, is cat juggling. And this goes back to Steve Martin. Steve Martin, in one of the greatest comedies ever, had a thing where he had he developed a optical grab, and someone from Mexico came up and said, this goes back to The Jerk. The Jerk, which is one of the greatest comedy movies ever. Someone from Mexico came up and goes, "Oh, senor, we've got a terrible thing in our village. We've got people juggling cats." And he showed this black and white film of someone juggling cats. And he goes, "Oh, sir, we've got to stop the juggling of the cats." And Steve Martin said, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible. We've got to stop this." And he starts writing a check out. Well, the truth is that cat juggling really wasn't a problem. Maybe someone was juggling cats, who knows, but it wasn't a problem to the point where someone needed to write a check for it. So those are 2 main things that, in regards to how laws are made, things that irritate a politician and cat juggling. So where does this come into play with lease options? Senate Bill 629 and House Bill 1823. The original version, which if you all, anybody watching this tonight, you all have the Texas CD, and you all have the original version of Senate Bill 629 and HB 1823. The original version would have made it illegal to lease option a house that had a mortgage on it. So if you're a homeowner in, say, Texas, the original bill would say that you can't lease option it if you have a mortgage. So investor groups, a number of major investor groups, jumped on the bandwagon to stop these bills. We were faxing, emailing, calling, everything to our representatives to stop these bills. We finally, thank you to a large group in Dallas. We got Representative Parker from Beaumont on board, and Senator on the Senate side, Royce West, who I'm not a big fan of, but whatever. Royce West from Dallas to make some major amendments to the bills. Again, keep in mind, the original version would have made it illegal to lease option a house with a mortgage. And so we'll get into this into a second about the rumors and some of the misnomers about the actual law. But Representative Parker and Senator Royce West made some major amendments to the bills. So let's talk about some of the rumors and where they came from. Some of you have heard that you can't do a lease option with a mortgage. What I mean by that is you can't do a lease option on a house that has a mortgage. Okay, that's false. That's completely untrue. I've heard other rumors such as the lender has to approve the tenant buyer. Yeah, that's nowhere in the bill. Nowhere in the law. You need at least 75% equity in the property. Again, that's nowhere in the law whatsoever. You have to foreclose on the tenant buyer. Nope, That's not the law. Fee simple title. There is a major misunderstanding on fee simple title. And the last thing is, the bill was included in Title II, Chapter 5 of TPC, Texas Property Code, which relates to conveyances. So what happened is they created the bill about lease options and included it in Title II, Chapter 5, which we'll look at in just a little bit. Which Title II, Chapter 5 is about conveyances. A lot of Title II, Chapter 5 is about contract for deed or owner finance. Only a very specific portion of Title II, Chapter 5 relates to a lease option. So what happened is, when you look at Title II, Chapter 5, it's very, first of all, it's boring as hell. And secondly, it's, unless you print it out, you have to really know what relates to a lease option and what doesn't, which we're going to talk about here. So again, only a portion of Title II, Chapter 5 pertains to a lease option. Now again, if you're watching this, if you're on the webinar tonight, you all have the Texas CD, which has a full copy of Title II, Chapter 5 of the Texas Property Code. So you all know what I'm talking about. But again, only a portion of Title II, Chapter 5 pertains to a lease option. So again, not all of House Bill 1823 applies to a lease option. Only a portion of the bill applies to a lease option. Which we're going to get into this here in just a second. The property code is very specific. The sections that do not apply, 5066, 5067, 5071, you can see it right there. The sections that do apply, 5061, 5062, 506 through 5065, 5073, and 5083 and 5085. So I'm going to leave that for just a second. So let's talk about some of the rumors. Then we're going to get into the actual Texas Property Code. The 180-day rule. 180-day rule. A number of you all have heard that you cannot do a lease option in Texas if it exceeds 180 days. The reason for this goes back to a contract for deed. On the contract for deed, let me back up another step. If you do an owner finance on a property, but you do not convey title, so you go, okay, I'm going to sell you this property. I'm going to charge you, it's a 30-year note, or 30-year amortization, 15-year note, and here you go, but I'm not going to give you title on the property. That's a contract for deed. In other words, you have to pay off that note to get the deed. In Texas, if you do not convey title within 180 days of doing a owner finance, it's a contract for deed. That's where the rule came from. And so the Texas Property Code states that if you do a lease option beyond 180 days, then you have to conform to specific guidelines, which is what which was the previous. If you do a if you do a contract for, if you do a lease option that's over 180 days, look at the section to the right, 5061, 5062. If you do a lease option that's longer than 180 days, then the sections to the right apply to you. Now keep in mind, we do a number of lease options, a ton of them. Most of them about 12 months. And so all the sections to the right apply to us. But that's what the 180-day rule is that if you do a lease option beyond 6 months, then these certain sections apply to you. That's what the 180-day rule is. So let me clarify. You can do a lease option beyond 180 days. It's just that if you do, these certain sections apply. The other item that's confusing is fee simple title. Fee simple title, in different states that hold title to a property in different states, different I guess names, if you will. In Texas, we hold it as fee simple title. I own my house. I have a mortgage on it, but you know what? I have fee simple title. There is a difference between title and mortgage. The way the law is drafted, people, even attorneys, were confused that title and mortgage were the same thing. They're not. Fee simple title is how we hold title in the state of Texas. It's considered the purest form of title, okay? I have fee simple title on my house. I have a mortgage on my house, but I have fee simple title. So fee simple title does not mean that you don't have a mortgage on the property, okay? However, if you're going to stay within the law, you cannot do a sandwich lease option in the state of Texas. A sandwich lease option is where you contract to do a lease with the option of purchasing a property, then you sublet that property to a third party, and that third party is paying you, and you're paying the owner. And maybe you're making $100 a month or whatever. But then at the end of the day, the goal is that you've secured that property for, say, $100,000, but you're selling it to the third party for $120,000. So that's a sandwich lease option. Now, I'm not saying people don't do this, but the problem is, per the law, you cannot do a sandwich lease option in the state of Texas because you have to have fee simple title as a seller, and once you sublet that property, you are the seller, so you don't have fee simple title. So what we do is simply an assignment. So the owner has fee simple title, we assign our contract, and it's done. So let's talk about section 5.085, mortgage disclosures. We get the mortgage information from the seller. We provide it to the buyer. And again, everybody watching tonight, you all have all of our contracts, lien holders, disclosure, etc. We get the mortgage information from the seller. We provide it to the buyer. The seller sends an authorization to release to the mortgage company. So what happens then is it's the same as, let's take a step back. Let's assume it is a wrap note, and you are selling the note to the end party. You, as a middleman, get the mortgage information from the seller. You get the disclosure, and so you've got access to that mortgage information. So the seller sends an authorization to release information to the mortgage company. And we have all required verbiage in the contracts. Again, anybody watching this tonight, you all have the Texas Lease Option CD, which has all the information, the reference manual, etc. So we get the mortgage information, provide it to the buyer. The seller sends the authorization to release to the mortgage company, and we have all the required verbiage in the contracts. So lease options are legal in Texas, but you have to have a couple of things. You have to have understanding of the law and the proper documents. Sorry. Let me close out of that. So let's go through the original, I shouldn't say the original, the amended bill. First of all, let me make sure, let me go back here. Again, you all are seeing my screen, so let me. I just want to make sure, no question, okay. Again, you all are seeing my screen, so as we pivot between screen and one screen and the other, just bear with me here. So, all right. So here's a copy of the actual bill, HB 1823, and this is the one that you all have on your CD. And I say it because it has my notes on it. So here we are with the bill is very specific. Don't get me wrong. This is a horribly written bill. This is not a well-written bill at all. But it states it tells you here in section 2, it's actually 2C, subsection E. It tells you what sections that do not apply. Section 5066, 67, 71. I mean, here's the sections that do not apply to an executory contract described by Section A2. Subsection A2, that just means lease option. So it tells you, oh, by the way, these sections don't apply to a lease option. And it says, only the following sections apply to an executory contract described by Section A2. So only the following sections apply to a lease option if it's 3 years or less. Well, I don't do 3-year lease options. So here we go. These, and hopefully y'all can see this, only these sections, bam, bam. Let me go back. Bam, bam, bam. Only these sections apply to a lease purchase. 506.3 through 506.5, 507.3, except for 507.3A2, 508.3 and 508.5 do apply, except as provided by so which I'll get into in a second. So here's the law. Hopefully y'all can see this. It says, for a lease option less than 3 years, here are the statutes or the sections that apply to a lease option. Now, one of the problems is that, let's go through it here. Oh, everybody thought this. Here's the HB 1823. Everybody thought, oh, everything in here applies to a lease option. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. No, that's not the case. That's not the case. The law is actually pretty. Again, this is not a well-written law, but it's very specific and says these sections do not apply. These right here do. So as you're scrolling through and here's one of the problems is that people read the bill and they thought, oh, everything in here applies to lease option. Oh, you've got to provide amortization and this and that, and you've got to do this and that, blah 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 blah. Well, most of the stuff doesn't even apply. Because keep in mind, this HB 1823, this is very important. This is very important. Listen to what I'm about to say. HB 1823 was not about lease options. Okay? Let me say that again. HB 1823 was not about lease options. It was about Title II, Chapter 5 regarding conveyances. It just so happened that they brought in Hutton and Dutton, or Dutton and Hutto, I guess, from Houston, Beaumont, brought in sections regarding lease options. They came into this. HB 1823 was not about lease options. But as they drafted the bill and brought it together, certain sections applied to a lease option. Okay? So only certain sections. At the end of the day, thank goodness for Representative Parker and Royce West. It makes me cringe to think Royce West. Ugh. Anyway, but only certain sections applied. Okay? So let's talk about Title II, Chapter 5. Let me back up here. First of all, let me go back here. I know you all are seeing my screen full and live, so I'm just going through here. Okay, and there we go. And I'm not going to go through all of Title II, Chapter 5 because it's very boring. Believe me, it's very boring. But let's talk about the sections that do apply to a lease option. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back here. Okay, here we go. Okay. A seller may not include as a term of the executory contract, the lease option, a provision that imposes an additional late payment fee that exceeds the lesser of. Okay, this right here has to do with the late fee. If someone is late on the payment, you can't go, oh, you're late on the payment. Okay, you owe me, $5,000. That's why in our contracts you'll see it's $25 a day, up to 3 days. Okay, but the point is that, well, big deal. So we can't exceed 8% of the monthly payment on the late payment fee. Well, who gives a crap? We can still release options. So let's scroll down. A seller may not include as a term of the executory contract, i.e. lease option, a provision that prohibits this purchaser from pledging the. A2 does not apply. Impose a prepayment penalty or any similar fee. So, in other words, if the buyer goes to buy the property in 6 months, you can't go, oh, there's a prepayment penalty. Well, we don't do that anyway. So, again, this is like almost like who cares? Number 4, forfeits an option fee or other option payment paid on the contract for late payment. In other words, you can't withhold a rent credit. Well, we don't actually, in our current contracts, we don't have a rent credit. It is just a seller concession. And if they're late 3 days or 4 days or whatever, it stinks. We'll activate the default notification, but the point is that we don't have a rent credit anymore, so it doesn't matter anyway. By the way, for you, everybody has my CD where it says DNA. That does not mean like a DNA like what you find in your body. That means does not apply. These are my notes from 6-7 years ago. DNA. In other words, I scrolled out what doesn't apply. Okay, right to cancel for improper platting. If this ever comes up, you're in bad shape. Where this came to be is from years ago, where people in Brownsville or what's across from Ojinaga, where they would just take a John Deere tractor and just wipe it out and you put up Cracker Jack houses and go, okay, here's your house. Nothing was platted. Well, unless that's your situation, you don't have to worry about that. So, that's not even a worry. But there you go. That's what the improper platting is. 5085. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about this in more detail. Fee simple title required. Maintenance of fee simple title. A potential seller may not execute an executory contract with a potential purchaser if the seller does not own the property in fee simple free from any liens or other encumbrances. Oftentimes, attorneys stop there and go, well, there you go. You can't do a lease option if you have a mortgage. And I've told them, well, can you keep reading? Except as provided by the subsection blah blah blah, must maintain fee simple title, which again, that's totally separate from the mortgage, free from any liens or other encumbrances to property blah blah blah. This subsection does not apply to a lien or encumbrances placed on the property, that is placed on the property. Okay. Boom. Number 3. Placed in the property. This does not apply to a lien. Placed in the property by the seller prior to the execution of the contract in exchange for a loan used only to purchase a property if, and on this if, it means you've got to provide these certain documentations, etc. So Number 3 is, subsection 3 is, guess what? A mortgage. So you can do a lease option on a property with a mortgage as long as before the third day to the execution of the contract, you notify the buyer and they sign off on the written disclosures of who the mortgage company is, the loan number, outstanding balance, etc. And then 14-point type. If the seller, defaults, it may go into foreclosure, etc. And the lien is attached only to the property sold, and that the lien secures the indebtedness that at no time will be greater than the amount of total outstanding balance owed by the purchaser. So in other words, if someone has a lien on the a mortgage on the property for $250,000, but they're going to lease the option for $200,000, well, you can't do that. And that the lien holder does not prohibit the property from being encumbered by an executory contract. This goes back to due on sale. Let's talk about due on sale. Due on sale is not a prohibitive clause. Due on sale, if due on sale is prohibitive, then that means that people can't do wrap notes or owner finance on properties that have an underlying mortgage. Believe me, I've read more than, 4, 5, 6, 700, 800 deed of trust and read the due on sale clause. The due on sale is nothing more than here's our stance, and we retain the right to call the note due if you sell the property. So, so the landlord does not prohibit the property from being encumbered by an executory contract. Due on sale does not fall into that. I say that, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there could be some bank somewhere that has some prohibitive clause on the deed of trust, but I've read well over 600-700 deed of trust, believe me, and I've never seen one that was prohibited the property based on due on sale. And then that consents to verify the status of the loan. What we do is we have the authorization to release. You can see my notes here, the authorization to release. You all have this in the CD. And as far as the monthly payments, a couple of things. You can the seller can put a spreadsheet together, or if it was my house, here's what I tell people: look, if it was my house, just I would create a login to the mortgage information, and they can see exactly what's going on. And then these items, subsection 2 and 3. This is basically verbiage, which is in the seller's acknowledgement. The law requires a very specific verbiage, and we have that in our landlord's acknowledgements. And that's really most everything else doesn't even apply to a lease option. So let me back out of here. And go back. And let me go back through some of these. Give me 2 seconds here. Let me. Okay. Let me go back. Going through the comments and questions here. Let me stop sharing here. Matt, can lease purchase seller have a date where the buyer cannot purchase before that date. That could be important for an investor seller who wants to sell after owning after 1 year, for over 1 year. Matt, no. And I've seen it before, Matt, where an investor says, well, you know what, I like your program, everything was good, but I really don't want to buy for 2 years. Then I say, well, so you just want a rental? No, I don't want a rental. I want them to buy the property, but I want them to buy it in like 22 months. Well, I can't help you with that. My goal is to get them financed as quickly as possible. So you can't say that you can't tell them that you can't buy it within 12 months. You've got to buy it within you have to buy it at 18 months. So I'm sorry, Matt. So in other words, to answer your question, no, you can't do that. Because I've had that before, Matt, where they go, well, I wanted to buy it because of my return here and what we're looking at here. I want them to have it. I don't want to buy it within the year. I want to buy it within 18 months. I'm like, well, then I just tell them, look, we may find something they can buy in 12 months, but I can't assure you, if they're ready to buy in 12 months, then we've got to pull the trigger because the option is within that time period. You can't say, okay, you've got a 12-month option, but you can't exercise it till 18 months. Madam Morris. And Jason, I'm sorry, I don't know what I said that came with Madam Morris. Although I know exactly where Madam Morris is. It's other side of the river from Brownsville. I'm sure I said something about tequila or something. Let me see here. Let me go back here. I was purchased for 12 months. Can the tax be for 20% taxes for long-term investment? Yeah, as far as in taxes, I'll be honest with you all. My specialty is not taxes. To be honest with you, as far as capital gains and this and that, don't get me started on that because I have that's not my specialty. My specialty is on how to make a very good margarita, and it's also Texas lease options. I'm not the tax guy, so if you're trying to figure out how to, the best way, here's the deal. Let's just cut to the chase. If you're trying to hide money from Obama, I would say move to the Caribbean, because that's where I'm thinking about moving to, because it's pretty. Actually, I'm thinking about moving to Costa Rica. I love Costa Rica. Me encanta el país de Costa Rica. So I'm thinking about just moving to Costa Rica. I love it there, and that's the way I'm going to save on taxes. Okay, that's how the quarterback for the the Patriots, whatever his name is, he's got a house down there. Let me go back here. Is there a limit on Mark Hammer? Is there a limit on setting the time of the option being executed? We set everything on 12 months. So what happens is this, Mark. We go into it with the owner. And we go, okay, the price is $200,000, 12-month period. It's $18.95 a month, whatever, blah blah blah. But what happens is this, Mark. We're looking for people that can get financed within 12 months. We may get someone that is phenomenal for a piece of property, but they need 18 months. And so I go back to the owner and go, hey, we've got something that's phenomenal, but they need 18 months. Can you do that? Yes or no? If they can do it, okay, great. So we'd redraft the documents for 18 months. But normally, Mark, the people we work with, they can get financed, boom, within 12 months for sure. As far as yeah, Matt, what you're talking about, and not to confuse everybody else here, what Matt's talking about here, he obviously has a property of his own, and he's trying to figure out how to do a lease option on it and pay as little taxes as possible. So I don't want to confuse everybody with that. With what we do, it is all we do is assign the lease option contract, and this goes back into self-employment. But what Matt's talking about, it sounds like, Matt, you've got a property of your own. They're trying to figure out how to save money on the taxes. Yeah. As far as that, Matt, that doesn't apply to tonight's class. And again, as far as saving money on taxes, here's the only way. The only way to save money on taxes, Matt, is to get it's if Obama dies in a horrific plane crash over the Atlantic Ocean. I'm not suggesting ways that happens, but no, I'm just kidding. But that's not certainly not the core of tonight. But because I am not the guy to go to for how to save money on taxes, because God knows I could have I could have bought 5 houses for the money I've paid to Obama. But anyway, what we're going to focus on tonight is text lease options. Oh, thanks, Mark. Thanks. Yeah, I'm on the record. Ooh, FBI is gonna, scald me here. Anyway, so as far as saving money on taxes for your own property, I'm not the guy, and this is definitely not the way, or the form, I should say, to figure out how to save money on taxes on your own property. But anyway, so as far as text lease options, that really breaks it down to the bare essentials. Again, I'm not here to talk about taxes on your own property because that's a whole CPA thing and everybody's individual situation. Let me ask you this before, because we got just a couple of minutes here. I know I kind of ran through it here. Does anybody have any specific questions about text lease options that I could answer or address? Yes, Sylvia, this call is being taped, so don't say anything that may put you, basically that may incriminate you. Are there potential legal issues with let me go back here. Market the property for. Do I need to worry about this distinction between? Okay, let me go back to Sam's question here. And Sam, I want to This goes back to, and this has nothing to do with text lease options, but let's talk about this. Sam's asking us, what are the legal issues with marketing a property for lease purchase versus marketing someone else's property to lease purchase versus own for an assignment? This goes back to, let me pull this up here. Let me see if I can do this here. And I'm doing this kind of on the fly here. And I've got a better diagram of this, but let me stand by. Let me stop this. Let me see if I can find my diagram. I'm sorry, guys, just 1 second. Where is it? Where is it? Come on, come on, come on. Okay, let me see if... Stand by, just 1 second. Document, share my screen, just 1 second, people. This goes back to Sam's, I just lost Sam's question. And I know this is totally off the cuff, I'm just running with it here. Let me go back to Sam's question. Okay, let's go back to Sam's question. All right, give me 2 seconds here. Hold on just a second. All right. So there's two types of lease options. There's a sandwich lease option and cooperative assignment. With the sandwich lease option, you've got the seller and you're making the payments to the seller, and the tenant buyer is making the payments to you, and you're making the payments to the seller. With a cooperative assignment, you've got the seller here, and you lock up the contract with the seller, then you assign it to the tenant buyer. Once you assign it to the tenant buyer is making the payments directly to the seller, right there. So with wholesaling, people talk about lease options versus wholesaling. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, but some different nuances as far as the property and this and that. All you're doing is assigning a contract. You're saying, okay, I've got this locked up with the seller for this amount, and you assign it to the tenant buyer. I've got this property locked up for $120,000 at $1,100 a month, and I'm assigning it, boop, 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 to the tenant buyer. Now the tenant buyer is making the payments every month, $1,100 a month or whatever, to the seller. Boom, 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 boom. Has nothing to do with you. So you're out of it. Stop sharing here. We got Sam's question. So Sam, what you're talking about? Yeah. So what? And I want to focus on what Sam's talking about here. What you're talking about, Sam, is occupational code. Let me stop this. Sorry. Sam, what you're talking about has nothing to do with text lease options. What you're talking about is How can I do this when I'm not an agent? This goes back to occupational code. Look up section. Look up section 11.1 occupational code. Occupational code is where this comes into play. Sam, keep in mind that my company has gone through 2 years of intensive investigation by Texas Real Estate Commission. Not through my own fault. And after 2 years, two separate situations, they both found that we were under no violation of Texas Occupational Code Section 1101.1, and so that's what you're talking about. If you are a principal in the agreement and you assign your contract, you're not getting a commission for the sale of the property. Your company has you're a principal in the agreement and you're assigning your contract. It's the same thing as a wholesale deal. Yeah, Landon, this will be recorded. This will be put in the back of leasing to buy. Yeah, and Mark Hammer, if there's something specific to the Texas law you need, just email me and let me know. Yeah, Mark, you're exactly right. I've had, I'll just give you a real life situations here where I've had homeowners say, well, let me run this by my attorney. Okay, fine, whatever. And they get back to me, and this is a true story. And they said, okay, my attorney reviewed everything, and I'm forwarding the changes or adjustments to the contracts they wanted. And they sent me, they just forwarded me the information that their attorney wanted. And I replied and said, well, I can't make those changes that your attorney wanted, that your legal counsel wanted, because they violate state property code. In other words, those changes violate the state law. I can't make those changes. And the response was, oh, okay, well, let's just go ahead and go with what you have then. So, if you have a situation or an owner that has a question about Texas property code or something like that, get me on the phone. Get me on the phone. That's why I'm here. Call me and say, hey, listen, John, I've got a seller. They're interested in what we're doing, but they've got a question about property code, which most homeowners won't. They just want to know, well, I heard this is illegal. No, it's not illegal. That's why we're so. That's why we do so well, because everybody thinks it's illegal. It's because we're the only ones that know how to do it. Let me scroll back here. Tina, what's up, Tina? I've seen a LO. I think you're talking about lease option memorandum. Memorandum is nothing more than where you're securing your position in the contract with the county, and you're filing a memorandum of option, a lease option memorandum with the county. Because you're doing an assignment, you really don't do that. I'm not saying you can't, but in 10 years and 500 properties, I've never, ever, ever filed a memorandum of option. Now, if you're doing a sandwich lease option, then which you can't. You could, but legally you can't do it in Texas. But if you're doing a sandwich lease option, you would want to file that memorandum of option to secure your position to put a lien on that property, but it doesn't really matter in Texas. Yeah, Landon, let me go back here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm scrolling down here. Landon, for the sandwich lease option, yeah. For Landon, for a sandwich lease option, a sandwich lease option is where you are, a homeowner wants 100,000. You negotiate down to say 90,000. I'm just throwing out numbers here. You negotiate down to 90,000. Then you basically sublet it with the option of purchase to the end buyer for say 105, and you're making say $100 a month. The buyer's paying you $1,100 a month. You're paying the owner $1,000 a month. Ooh, wow! You're making $100 a month. Then the end goal is that at the time of finance, the end buyer is paying, I forget the numbers, 105, and you're going to pay the owner 95 or whatever the number was. So you're making that spread, you're making that difference. Obviously, there's closing costs involved, this and that. That's a sandwich lease option. Per Texas law, you cannot do a sandwich lease option. Now, I'm not saying people are going to do it. I'm just saying, per Texas law, you can't do it. Also, let's forget Texas. This is very important. Forget Texas law for right now. I don't recommend, there's two things, well, a lot more than two, but a couple of things I don't recommend anybody doing starting off. This is very important. Listen to what I'm about to say here. Two things I don't recommend anybody doing starting off. And that's sandwich lease options or sub 2. If you are starting off in real estate and you think you're going to be wealthy by doing sub 2s, yeah, well, forget it. Do not start off doing sub 2s. Do not start off doing sandwich lease options. Because I will tell you this. You may think your IQ is 160, 170, but I will assure you this. The first time you get a sub 2 back, or at least a sandwich lease option back, and you're freaking eating that payment of $1,500, $1,600, $1,800 a month, and now you've got to rehab the house. Also, you can try to squeeze out, $4,000 or $5,000 at the end of the day. Yeah, that's not the way to go. So do not start off in real estate doing sub 2s or sandwich lease options. You know, Mark, I wish that's that's exactly right, Mark. It's so easy to start off in real estate and screw things up. Not because you're an idiot, but because nobody told you any wiser or any better. I did 2. I think I talked about this down in Houston. I did 2 sandwich lease options. This is years ago. One of them I ended up only losing like $1,100 or $1,200. The other one was the biggest nightmare of my life. It was just an absolute catastrophe. I think I was talking about it where the cockroaches were so bad. Like I've seen some bad crap. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And I was on the hook. It was a disaster. So, Dude, I hear you, Mark. I hear you, Mark. Dude. That's exactly. Oh man, it was a mess. What a freaking mess. So that's why I say don't do uh, sandwich lease options or subject to until you you are very knowledgeable in the market, in the area, and exactly what you're doing. You've got to know exactly what you're doing. So, listen, it's guys, it's 9:15. Listen, I'm hoping to make it. I know not everybody's from Houston tonight, but I'm hoping to make it down there here in a couple months with Tim. Love to come down there again here in a couple months just to say hi and with everybody. But anyway, listen, we've got our next class is coming up here in just 2 weeks. Anyway, so hopefully all of y'all are going to be there. Anyway, listen, guys, that's it for tonight. I will save this and put it up in the back of the website. If you all need a copy of this, email me. I'll send you a link. If you don't have access to the website, I'll put a link and send that to you. All right. So, all right, guys. Hey, listen. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Landon. Matt. Thank you, Tina. Hope you're doing great.